My good girlfriend, you and men do that thing you can get hurt. Although I said girlfriend, but thought of white girlfriend lifestyle is very open, this time all hurt certainly enjoy very much, cannot help but deep envy. My name is Lu Rui, I'm an international student, I don't have many friends in a foreign country, only my white best friend Ruth and I talk to each other. The only thing we don't really get along with is that Ruth is too open, which makes it hard for me to accept sometimes. Last night, she insisted on dragging me to a party with her male classmates, but I didn't go. I didn't expect to get the call today. Because I'm untouched, plus I have a boyfriend far away in China, that's why I usually can't let go. Strongly holding back these evil bad thoughts, I saw that I couldn't get a cab after waiting for half a day, so I had to choose to go to take the crowded old subway. Getting on the subway, I walked towards a corner. It didn't take long for me to feel a man sticking up behind me. He seemed to do it on purpose, the subway was crowded, and just now I saw a lot of tattooed youths looking like punks, I didn't dare to say much. I moved a little closer to the corner again. Who knows that the man behind actually more excessive. He moved closer to me and got even closer to me. I was a little scared but did not dare to scream, the subway lights do not know when to go out. Because of the infrastructure of this place is not very good, subway aging lights out is a common thing. But the lights so out, all of a sudden let the man behind me more excited. I looked back and stared. The man behind me was actually my best friend's dad, David. I had met David several times and he was a very gentlemanly and warm man. I didn't realize that the person who had openly played a hooligan on me on the subway was actually him. Should I say something? I was going to tell him, but then I thought he'd be embarrassed if I did, and this. Retracting my eyes, it occurred to me that I had always had a crush on David. I was so ashamed I lowered my head in fear of being recognized by him. At that moment the lights came on with a pop and I panicked a little. Luckily Davy was back to being a decent guy too. I buried my face deep in the middle of the corner, trying not to let Davy see my face. Ouch, who's bumping into me? Davy let out a cry of pain and I quickly turned my head only to see that someone had knocked Davy down. Davy cursed and looked back at me here, and it was impossible for me to twist my face back again at that point. Davy. You? All I could do was blush red and greet Davy. Davy froze as he looked at me, a little embarrassed when he recognized me. So it's you, Rui, this is so embarrassing, I just thought it was the online friend I had a date with. I could sense that Davy was lying, just moments ago both of my legs were trembling, and it wasn't surprising that Davy thought I was the open woman. Rui, you young girls need to be safe out there. If I hadn't recognized it was you, I likely wouldn't have been able to resist. Anyway, I apologize, I didn't mean it this time, it was really because of a misunderstanding. I lowered my head and hummed a few times, not knowing how to answer him. Rui, where are you going? Perhaps feeling that the atmosphere was a bit awkward, David took the initiative to strike up a conversation with me. I gradually calmed down and told Davy that I was going to visit Ruth in the hospital. I didn't realize that Davy was doing the same. We got off the subway together and headed to the middle of the hospital. I wondered why David hadn't taken the subway instead of the car. David explained to me that the car had been driven for maintenance, and he was worried about Ruth, so he took the subway here first. I didn't think any more about it. We arrived at Ruth's hospital room together, and Ruth was a little surprised to see us both come in together. How did you guys get together? Thinking about what had just happened I just felt embarrassed and I hurriedly explained. Uncle Davy and I just happened to run into each other outside. Davy didn't tear me down and turned to ask about Ruth's body. It's nothing, it's just that I had too much fun yesterday and accidentally broke it. I froze when I heard Ruth's words. How did she tell Davy about this kind of thing? What surprised me even more was that Davy didn't feel anything wrong, instead he even comforted Ruth a bit. The thing about men and women is that they need to enjoy themselves, girls, they need to know how to have fun in time. He turned his head to look at me when he said this, and seemed to have a point. I thought that both father and daughter were too open, but listening to David's meaningful words, images of the subway kept popping into my head. But he was my BFF's dad, so it was a shame to think about it. Seeing that I did not answer, David also no longer say more, but went to find the doctor to ask about the situation. My best friend's body is a little torn, but also need to stay in the hospital for 2 days. In the evening, after the infusion, my best friend fell asleep, leaving me and David sitting on the sofa in the hospital room. I lowered my head and pretended to look at my cell phone, but out of the corner of my eye, I kept glancing over to David. He was swiping through his cell phone videos, which actually had some beautiful women in them. He actually loved watching such videos. When I wanted to retract my eyes, Davy suddenly moved towards me. "Roy, can you help me see how to search for this kind of video next time?" Being asked by him, I was too embarrassed to pretend I didn't see it anymore and could only turn my head to look at his cell phone. David is also really too liberal, watching this kind of video actually not behind my back, but also blatantly let me help. "Just follow it here." I didn't dare stare at my phone, my voice as small as an ant's. David, however, had nothing to be embarrassed about, coming a little closer to me and holding the phone up to me. "This woman's body is way off compared to yours. God, white people are so open in ways I wouldn't have thought possible, and it's amazing that he even speaks on such topics without the slightest bit of embarrassment." His words put me on pins and needles, and all I could do was grab a water glass from the coffee table and drink strategically. David spoke for a moment, and when I didn't respond, he reached for the glass in my hand. I grabbed the glass and subconsciously didn't let go. The cup shook in the middle of the tugging and the water inside spilled all over me. Sorry. David mouthed sorry. I stood up in a panic. I'll go change my clothes." After saying that, I broke away and ran quickly into the bathroom. The clothes in front of me were soaked. I panicked and took off the shirt on top. After removing it, I remembered that I didn't seem to have any clothes with me. While I was thinking about what to do, the bathroom door was suddenly pushed open. David walked in from outside. "Roy, let me help you." The next moment held me down at the sink and ripped my wraparound skirt off underneath. Bang, bang, bang. Doctor checking in. There was a knock on the door and someone started to turn the handle on the door. It was the doctor checking in. Seeing that the doctor was about to open the door, Davy couldn't help but curse the fark out of him. He quickly walked out of the bathroom. I, on the other hand, quickly wiped the water from my clothes with a piece of paper, put it back on and walked out. The doctor came over to check on BFF and left, and BFF woke up at that moment. She just woke up and yelled that she was a little hungry and wanted David to go get her food. Feeling a bit embarrassed to stay here, I took the initiative to mention that I would go and get it for my bestie. After saying that, I walked out of the hospital room. Just after taking a few steps, I suddenly remembered that I had forgotten my cell phone, and when I returned to the door of the ward, I heard my bestie talking to David in the ward. "Ruth, help me out again and create some opportunities for me and Roy, okay? Didn't you succeed on top of the subway? Didn't I already tell you which subway she would take, and you both came together? How come you haven't succeeded yet?" Hearing this, I couldn't help but stare. So David would meet me in the subway because Ruth told him. No wonder David didn't drive but chose to go for the subway. He was rushing towards me. A wave of fear welled up in my heart. What were the two of them conspiring behind my back to do? Just then I heard Davy sigh. Ugh, it was about to work, but after she realized it was me, I couldn't very well continue. I really like Roy to the bone, and I want to be with her even though I know she has a boyfriend. Am I wrong for doing this? Ruth shook her head when she heard Davy's words. Daddy, you're not wrong. Everyone has the right to choose the person they love. I support you and Roy being together. After all, you're both the closest people to me. As for that boyfriend of hers, I see that they seldom contact each other. I guess the relationship isn't very good. Maybe you can chase her down. After hearing the previous words, as if my heart was soaked in ice water, it started to gradually warm back up after arriving here. I did not expect David actually liked me so much. The reason he did all this is just because of love. The corners of my mouth showed a smile, inexplicably excited and thrilled in the middle of my heart. Afraid of being caught eavesdropping by two people, I didn't go to get my cell phone, and happily went downstairs. When I brought dinner back, girlfriends rushed to greet me to sit down and eat together. She even took out a few bottles of wine. Roy, you really are my best friend, and I also hope that our relationship can be long-lasting. She raised her glass of wine, seemingly a little moved. I was warmed by my best friend's words and hurriedly clinked glasses with her. BFF put down the wine glass and said in a serious tone. Rui, your boyfriend. In fact, there is no difference whether there is or not. If you want me to say that, you might as well find a new one here. We are still young, cannot be trapped by some things. If I hadn't overheard the conversation between the two just now, I probably wouldn't have been able to understand what my best friend's words meant. But now I knew that my girlfriend was saying this to try to persuade me to break up with my boyfriend and stay with her father, David. I subconsciously looked at David, who was sitting on the side. He looked like he had something on his mind as he drank one glass of wine after another. My psychological defense was gradually broken down. In fact, my girlfriend has a point. My boyfriend and I have not seen each other for a long time, and now even the news is rare. What's the point of being in a relationship like this? Since my girlfriends were supportive and David liked me so much, being with him was actually a good choice. At least he definitely gives me a lot of pleasure in one way or another. My heart began to gradually loosen up, and I had different feelings for David. There was a little bit of anticipation and a little bit of nagging inside, and I drank a lot of wine in my boredom. At the end of the day, my body began to wobble and was about to become unsteady. My best friend had collapsed on the hospital bed. I wobbled from the chair up, walked to another hospital bed and lay down. Under the influence of alcohol, I had forgotten all moral shame. I had also finally seen what the white man was capable of in that area. By the time I woke up again, it was dawn. My girlfriend was sitting on the hospital bed staring at me thoughtfully. I was startled and sat up in a panic. What are you doing staring at me? Even though I was drunk yesterday, I vaguely remember exactly what happened. And David together. In fact, I do not regret, after all, I vaguely among some expectations. My girlfriend laughed and joked with me, just think you're especially pretty today. BFF's words made me even more sure that she already knew what happened between David and me. After all, BFF even told Davy the reason why she was sick, and I'm afraid Davy wouldn't hide it from her. Thinking that my best friend also supported Davy and I being together, the embarrassment in my heart was much less. At this time it so happened that David walked in from outside carrying breakfast, and after hearing his girlfriend's joking words to me he gave her a blank look. Don't joke with Ray in the future, she's not as thick-skinned as you are. Hearing Dai's words in defense of me, BFF hummed a bit in jealousy. What a way to forget your daughter when you have a lover. The two men's generous words made the little bit of discomfort in my heart dissipate. In order for me to enjoy a happy life with Davy, BFF waved us away, saying she didn't need to be taken care of here. Davy took me back to the house. We began a happily ever after without shame. I sent my boyfriend the breakup message. Since I was already with David, I couldn't occupy my boyfriend anymore, and it was better to make things clear to him. My boyfriend quickly replied to the message and agreed to my breakup painfully. This made me a little disappointed and made me feel even more that David was the one who really loved me. Our footprints were left in any corner of Davy's house. Davy exploited me to the hilt like he could never get enough. After a week of this, Davy offered to take me on a trip to the islands. Because of his sweetness and strength during this time he had completely conquered me and left me with no questions about him. After hearing him say to go to the island, I happily agreed, and even began to imagine the two of us on top of the island, to the vast and boundless sea. To do that kind of thing must be how exciting. In the midst of my happiness, I began to prepare the things I would bring to the island, and that day I had just finished buying snacks from the supermarket when I was stopped by a man. This was Zhao Ming, an international student from the same school as me, and because he came from the same country, his relationship was a bit better than the others. He's always had that kind of interest in me, it's just that I've never promised him. Now that I saw him stop me, I thought he was going to confess again, and subconsciously was going to reject him. But he pulled his arm and dragged into a small alley next to me. I was startled and thought he was going to do something to me, and was about to leave the place when I heard him anxiously say to me, "Never go to the island." Hearing his words I instantly widened my eyes. How do you know I'm going to the island? This matter David, in addition to telling me, should only girlfriends know. How on earth did he know? Zhao Ming, however, didn't want to talk to me about this. Instead he kept saying to me, "The island is very dangerous, you must not go. That David isn't a good person either, he obviously has a wife, yet he still wants to be with you. I didn't expect Zhao Ming to know so many things, and at the same time, there was some anger that he had spied on my private life. Even knowing about me and David being together. Such a person made me feel some disgust in my heart for no reason, and I didn't believe in his words at all. Zhao Ming's face became even more anxious when he saw that I didn't believe him in the slightest. Rui, you must believe me, I won't lie to you, that David he really isn't a good person, you will definitely be in great danger this time. Because I have personally experienced David's care and concern for me, and because I have been living with him in the house for so long, I haven't found any traces of other women in the house other than my girlfriends, which means that he is indeed usually just a person. I felt that Zhao Ming was just jealous after knowing that David and I were together, and that's why he deliberately tried to sabotage our relationship. I didn't believe a word of his words, but seeing as Zhao Ming seemed very agitated, I didn't dare to irritate him, so I was only able to falsely agree. Zhao Ming let out a sigh of relief after seeing that I believed him, and before he left, he barked at me again. Never go to the island. I cast his exhortation to the back of my mind in the twinkling of an eye, and quickly and happily prepared the things I needed to travel to the island. When it came to the day of departure, Davy took me to the dock. Looking at the large bag I had prepared, Davy shook his head. None of this stuff is going to be used, there's no need for us to take it with us. I only thought at the time that David should be thinking that I was taking too many things, but later I realized that he really didn't think I could use them. Before getting on the yacht, Davy brought out an insurance contract that he said he had to sign. In the past, even if I was in an automobile, I would also buy an insurance policy. I think this is a normal thing. Without much thought, I signed it quickly. I was still immersed in the pleasure I was about to enjoy with David and didn't notice the gleam in David's eyes. Soon we took the yacht to the sea. Looking at the vast ocean around me, I just felt relaxed and happy, and the idea came up again in my heart. I wrapped my arms around David in a mischievous manner, and started scratching him with one of my small hands in front of his body, the meaning of which was more than obvious. Davy smiled at me and stood on the yacht with me in his arms, pointing to the ocean in the distance. Rui, do you think the ocean is pretty? I was full of wanting to be happy with him at the moment and perfunctorily said pretty. But just as my words finished, I saw David's face change. That gentleness and gentlemanliness was gone, only viciousness remained. Since the ocean is so beautiful, why don't you go down and take a look? The next moment he threw me into the middle of the ocean. The moment I fell into the water, I looked over at Davy and saw a smug smile on his face. Davy, don't joke around, just pull me up. I was scared. Blushing from fear, I subconsciously pleaded up to Davy. Davy stood on the yacht with a contract in his hand and waved it at me. How am I going to get this huge amount of money for pulling you up? I froze in my tracks. Accident insurance. David had already shifted direction and turned back toward the way he came, so it turned out he wasn't bringing me to the island for fun at all, but to use me to cheat on the insurance. What Zhao Ming said was true. It's just that it's already too late to know. The endless sea can drown many things. Although I had learned to swim, it was impossible for me to escape from the middle of the sea. Seeing my body getting weaker and weaker, I gradually sank towards the bottom of the sea, no longer having the strength to swim. Maybe I'm really going to die in this sea water. This was the only thought left in my mind, and I closed my eyes in despair. But soon I felt my body began to float. The pressure of the sea water around me was no longer there, but became relaxed. I opened my mouth and breathed heavily, and it took a while before I opened my eyes. Then I saw that I was lying in the middle of a yacht, and the person sitting next to me was Zhao Ming. Seeing Zhao Ming again, I didn't have the same kind of dislike for him that I had before. Instead, I had a trace of peace of mind. At the same time, I felt very regretful in my heart, why I didn't listen to him at the beginning, and had to follow David to come here together, and eventually almost buried my own life. It's just that I'm still a bit puzzled. Zhao Ming, how did you know that David wanted to harm me? Zhao Ming sighed and told me everything. It turned out that he usually worked part-time at a hotel, and a few days ago, he saw Davy go to the hotel with his arm around a woman and called her his wife. Because David sometimes picks me up from school, so Zhao Ming recognized him. When I saw him that day, Zhao Ming wanted to tell me about it, but something delayed him. Later he went to the hotel room to deliver food, and at the door he heard David and the woman talking about something about the island. The woman also told him he had to make sure the schoolgirl signed up for insurance. Realizing that the schoolgirl they were talking about was me, Zhao Ming quickly found me and advised me not to go. My attitude at the time was so good that he thought I really listened to him, but he was still vaguely uneasy, so he made a point of asking other students. When he found out that I didn't go to school, he started to panic and hired a yacht to chase after me. Fortunately, he came in time to see my sinking body, otherwise the consequences would be unimaginable. Speaking of this, Zhao Ming still had some regrets and fears. That day I shouldn't have let you come even if I tied you up, in case I came a step too late. Looking at the endless chagrin on Zhao Ming's face, I was moved inwardly. Originally I thought the person who truly loved me was the one who wanted to put me to death. Instead it was the person I hated so much who ended up saving me. Back on land, Zhao Ming took me to the hospital. After soaking in the ocean for so long, he was worried that there might be something else wrong. He was relieved when the doctor checked and said there was something wrong, and discussed with me what to do next. There was no way I was going to let David off the hook for this kind of intentional killing, and I also wanted to know what role my best friend had played in it. So I found my best friend. When I saw my best friend's face like she had seen a ghost, I knew that she must have known about this matter. "Really, didn't you go to the island with my daddy? How did you come back so soon?" She quickly recovered as normal after her shock, and even inquired at me with feigned surprise. The acting was just too good. If her initial reaction wasn't so shocked I might have believed her. But now I don't believe her anymore. "Wasn't it a shock to see me back, Ruth? You and Davy teamed up to lie to me. Just wait until you get in there." Ruth looked aghast, realizing that I already knew everything. She subconsciously took out her cell phone and tried to make a call but was held down by the police I had called. When the police found David, he was in the hotel hanging out with a woman and the insurance was already going through the process. Seeing the police, David but not the slightest weakness, but also constantly clamor that he is wrongly accused, is my own careless fallen. But Zhao Ming has long recorded the conversation between him and the woman. He wants to argue no way. Fraudulent insurance plus intentional homicide, David was taken in. Along with his wife and daughter. Both were accomplices. They came up with this trick because they wanted a new house and lacked money. After all, I'm a foreign student. It's best to start with no one here. The conversation between Ruth and David at the hospital was also deliberately said to me because they knew I had returned. After this incident, I no longer have the slightest attachment to this country, so I took a break from school and returned home. When I arrived at the airport, I saw Zhao Ming waiting there early. Zhao Ming took the suitcase from me and smiled at me. "I already knew you would want to leave, can you bring me along?" "Don't worry, it's just as a friend, I won't force you to do anything." I didn't expect Zhao Ming to be so persistent about me. After such a long pursuit, he never gave up, and he even saved my life before. I felt that being with someone as reliable as Zhao Ming was the right choice. So I took his hand, as a boyfriend. Zhao Ming's eyes lit up with excitement as he gripped me back hard and pulled me forward.